Welcome back. I want to talk about Project 2 just a little bit with you. So again, if you haven't looked at the assignment sheet, pause this video, get it up in front of you, and take a look at it so that hopefully you have some context for what I'm about to say. Essentially, in this project, you're going to explore two issues that you might ultimately write your researched argument project for about. We call it the exploratory essay because essentially what you're going to do is create a map for yourself and then for the reader of two issues that you're going to argue about, right? Now, you're not going to write your project for about both of these issues. This is kind of there to give you options to see which one is going to be more fruitful for you to pursue. And you don't have to use the topic that you used in Project 1, although since you've already done research, if you found good research and if you're still interested in that topic, by all means make that one of the two topics that you look at in Project 2. So Project 2 is all about context. Remember, I told you context is territory. Your essay is a map to that territory, like I hinted before. So as you're doing the research for the two topics you select, I want you to approach it the way you would approach exploring any new place that you haven't been before. Think about the questions that you need to ask and the questions that you need to have answered in order to fully understand the conversation that's already been going on. Remember that Burkean parlor that we keep coming back to again and again. You want to think about what people maybe have already said and what kind of language they already use. You, in theory, have chosen a couple of topics that you haven't made up your mind about. And then you're going to pursue what others have said so that you can answer those questions for yourself and then use those answers to help the reader go through the same process. You'll be able to walk the reader through that process when you write your project for. So basically, imagine you're taking a trip, like I said before, and then eventually you're going to become a guide for others through that exact same territory. Now to do that, you need to read broadly. You don't need to worry about representing every single thing that you read or answering every single possible question. You want to focus on the main kinds of questions that people ask, the main highlights, the arguments that take place, the things that have been settled, the things that still need to be settled in that field. Get familiar with that discourse community and show the reader that you're familiar with it. Part of that means that as you write this essay, you're going to need to cite your sources. There are two reasons to do that. One of them is, remember, you're going to write your researched argument later, and you're going to have to give evidence from credible sources. If you start doing that now, you might be able to take portions of your Project 2 and then just move them almost directly into your Project 4. And you certainly will have a list of the sources that you've already looked at. Don't neglect to pay attention to that now, or you might regret it later. Keep track of those things. The other reason that you want to cite your sources as you go through this essay is to get in the habit of presenting your research and showing where it comes from. And in that way, you'll work on establishing yourself as an authority on this issue. Or at least at this point, an authority on starting to be familiar with this issue. I don't expect you to have every answer. I just want you to show me that you've done the basic lay of the land. So, the other thing to pay attention to when you're working on establishing authority, and we'll come back to this again when we talk about revising and editing, is to maintain that objective tone. You're working on becoming an objective authority on the two issues that you're looking at, eventually on the one issue that you'll be writing about in Project 4 especially. But that means that as you go, you want to try to leave your opinion out of it until the very, very end of the project. So keep it objective, stay in the third person, avoid the first person completely because you're not writing about you until you get to that last paragraph, and avoid the second person too because you don't know who the audience is. Yes, technically, in the context of this class, I'm going to be your audience, your classmates are going to be your audience, but you're not having a direct communication with one of us. You're writing in general just to inform. So stay out of the first and second person, be in the third person, try to maintain that objective scientific tone. You're being that expert that anyone should come to and expect a degree of formality and professionalism that you would expect from a formal professional website, tour guide book, essentially from an expert. Okay, so what I've left out is that last portion of Project 2, the last paragraph in each of the issues that you're looking at, where you talk about your connection to this issue. And your connection to this issue could be that this is something you've always wondered about and you want to figure out the answer to it. Your connection to it might be that this is something that has affected you in your personal life and you want to find a way to talk about it and work through it and see what others have said. Maybe this is something that you've always cared about and you want to find a way to legitimately present a case to someone. I hope that you're not writing about something that you've already made up your mind about, but it's fine with me if you're writing about something that you do have a direct connection to in your life. You might even be able to say, I never considered this once before, but when you asked me to think about something related to the connection between mind, body, and spirit and how to live as an ethical citizen in the world, then by all means, tell me about it. That last paragraph is just about you and where you are in connection with your research. That probably won't go into your project 4 unless it goes into the introduction or conclusion, and we'll talk about that more when we talk about presenting intros and conclusions versus the body of your paper. But pull all of that down into that one paragraph. Keep the rest of it completely objective. Okay? As far as length goes, what needs to go into the writing of the paper, you'll see that this is supposed to be about a 2-page paper. You got 2 topics, 2 pages. You've got to be succinct. You've got to be concise. Now that 2 pages probably doesn't include your works cited page, which you should include, and there are materials to help you compose that on Blackboard. But again, you're really going to have to work on summing things up. That's why we worked on summarizing at the very beginning of the class. If you take more than a page per issue, that's okay. It could potentially extend to 2 pages if you find there's just so much territory to cover. But I do want you to try to just very briefly lay out what's going on there. That way, you've got kind of a guide as to how to continue to research with your projects 3 and 4. All right, if you have any questions for me going forward, please let me know. I'm looking forward to seeing the issues that you all come up with and the research that you present.